LinkedIn. What is up? It's another Midweek Madness with me, Matt Comber, live every Wednesday, 12:30 BST, where I attempt to make sense of questions that people ask me from the esteemed LinkedIn community. I try and really just make sense of some complex situations that actually occur in this world and some complex questions that everybody has here. So I'm going to jump straight into it this week. We've got I think 4 or 5 questions this week that were sent in, and yeah, I'm kind of keen to kind of jump straight in here and get straight into it. So without further ado, the power of technology here. We're going straight in. Hopefully you can all hear me, see me on this wonderful week. First question that we're going to get straight into here. So this came in really early, actually, in the week. This question: what is the best way to improve client lead flow, attraction? I edited it because I think it's an attraction question, through our website. And what are the best content hooks to use? Okay. So firstly, in the software world, we would refer to this as kind of a demand generation question. And where possible in these, I'm going to try and bridge the gap a little bit between software and recruitment world, because I believe that there is quite a lot of crossover. I think there's some really good stuff that the recruitment world does that we try and take in the software world. And I think there's probably some really good stuff that happens in the software world that can transfer to recruitment. So if we just class this as a demand generation question, firstly, I think the first thing that you should look at is deciding where you want clients to enter your website. So websites, I've always said this, they're very spherical things, right? Like a homepage might get a lot of the traffic, but we need to kind of agree that we send an email marketing campaign out and that has a link where people enter via that space. We have a bunch of different ways that we actually market our business. Social media, we create links. They've got like sublinks. They're very spherical, right? It's not just the homepage that people enter. So the first thing you probably need to look at is where are people entering into the website from? The second thing then is to think about what the user experience is going to be for that client, i.e., what do you want them to do, right? So do you want them to come to the website and read content? Well, if you want to do that, make it easy for them. So then you think about how you're sharing links, where those links are entering the website. Therefore, what is the user experience from all of this? I'm getting really big on this concept of like optimizing entry points into websites, not just optimizing from the homepage onwards, but optimizing every entry point into the website and really trying to understand how we make every experience from no matter where somebody comes in a good experience, and we get them get them to where we want to get them through clients or candidate users on our website. So think about user experience, what we want the client to do. Do we want them to read content? Do we want them to convert? And then think about making that easy for them. Then kind of just slightly next step for that is think about conversions. So and conversion points specifically on the website. So the conversion point isn't always a form or a chatbot completion or something like that. The concept could be that we want people to read another piece of content. That's a conversion. You could class that as a conversion. If that's what you want them to do, then that's a goal, and that's what you're trying to achieve. Or it could be for them to go and download an ebook, right? It could be that you just want them to convert and you want them to fill in the form that says, get in touch with me. I've got work here that I'd like you guys to look at. But if you think about like where you want them to enter, then what the experience is like for them there, and then how they're going to convert, you're getting kind of, people through that process. If you're looking at more direct conversions, think about things like landing pages and things like that. Don't overload those landing pages. That would be like my bonus tip on this one. Keep it simple and focus on the value that you're trying to drive. Focus on the value point, which is the conversion ultimately on that page. So I think lead flow, there's a few different ways that you can look at doing that, or client lead flow. That's before we get into like how we're going to get people in there as well. And there's a couple of other things that have just come to me. It's like top of my head things as I was thinking about this. Social proof is a really cool way of doing this. I think that if you want to improve like the leads from your clients, there's loads of ways you can get people to the website. I'll talk about some of those because it's the second part of this question. But if you're thinking about like validation when you're on a website, if you look at tools like Great Recruiters, fortunate enough to spend some time in the US with them in May, and their product, we have clients that have their tool implemented on our website, but it's a really, really good validation tool. It's like, people, we've worked with this agency and this is the experience that we got. I love that type of peer-to-peer validation dotted through websites quite seamlessly. So if you've got client flows, it makes total sense to put like case study like sections on the website. It makes total sense to have Great Recruiters where it's got like a starred rating. I love that kind of stuff. Like that's social proof. Same way as review sites work. I love that kind of stuff. I definitely would advise having a look at products like that. And then, one of the common ones right now to improve that lead flow to the website is going to be tools like chatbots. I always get messages after this saying I've forgotten somebody. I have a memory like a sieve. But if I, off the top of my head, if I look at people like chat automation, if I look at staffing engines, Sense, Conversible, somebody we recently met with, the Bullhorn automation product in itself, having a chat tool built in there. Again, other ways to offer different points where people can convert on websites, which definitely can improve lead flow and a B2B kind of scenario. So that's the first answer to that first part. Hopefully that was helpful. Content hooks. So I've written some notes on this because there's a bunch of different content hooks that that I love. So some of my favorites are the problem solution hook. I use this quite a lot, which is, are you struggling to do this? Here's how we solve it on your website. So that's a content hook right there. The case study hook, B2B SaaS uses this a lot. I don't see it as much in recruitment and staffing, but the case study hook of success stories, people like you. I call it the people like you. For people like you, this is what we've done. This is the success that we've driven. That's a great content hook. I don't love case study pages that are behind like forms. I just think put it out in the open, go and brag about what you've done. I think it's a cool thing to do. You could have offers, sign up today type stuff. We don't see that much really in the recruitment industry for that type of stuff, but it could be that we're offering this service on top for a time period. Idea for a content hook. There could be things like download our comprehensive guide. Obviously, that's the kind of expert insight hook that we look at. Thought leadership type of pieces. That's a really good hook to have in on the website. And then, interactive stuff. I saw this at somebody's website on LinkedIn. They're doing like paid promotion around it. It's like a diversity checker for job ads, but it was a recruitment agency. Start in May, maybe, that we're putting it out. I thought it was cool. Yeah, I think that's kind of like that interactive content hook, side of things that people can use. I think that's quite underutilized, that type of content. So yeah, I love that type of thing. If you can get it done, I think that's a really, really cool type of way. So there's a bunch of different type of hooks that people use. We use things like ebooks, content hook, the case study hooks quite a lot. Again, I use that problem solution type of thing on my own content quite a lot. Do you have this problem? Because this is how we're going to solve it. Ultimately, that's how you build a business, right? It's, do you have a problem where we've got a solution to solve that? And I think through your content, you can drive a lot of that as well. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question. People found that useful. Second question, how can we get better at using data to enhance our recruitment and marketing efforts? We know we collect a lot, but we're unsure what to actually do with it. This is quite common. There was a Bullhorn analytics session that we attended recently. And I think this is one of the questions that came from the back of this. I started my career in data science. That was kind of what I did as this fresh-faced kid, learning all about the world of data and how we use it in different scenarios. And over the years, I always kind of default back to data. So I have a bit of a framework, and I thought I'd share that with everybody today because I think it's useful. I've used it in businesses for years now, maybe 10 years, 15 years. So hopefully people will find this useful. The first thing is that I like to start by defining the clear objectives of the high level goals that I want to achieve, right? So that's the big stuff that I'm looking to do. So it could be I am looking to improve candidate quality. That's a big high level goal. I want to improve my candidate quality. The second piece could be I want to improve engagement with my web visitors or optimize campaign performance from email marketing. These are the bigger goals. And when you're thinking about anything that you do, you're probably going to have them in the back of your mind. Like, you're going to sit in a meeting and say, what are we trying to do? We're trying to improve our time to hire, or we're trying to improve whatever it might be. Once you have then that in place, so you've got your clear objectives. Secondly, you're going to then look at metrics after that and identify what the key metrics are. So it could be the cost per application. It could be the time from application to placement. That could be a metric that you look at. It could be the quality of candidates. If you star that type of stuff, or if you grade that kind of stuff, your business, or relevance, probably maybe more relevance. These are the metrics then that you're going to wrap around it. So you've got a clear high level objective, and then you're going to have some metrics that come together that form what you're actually going to then go and find. Because after that is when we collect our data at that point. And you want to centralize this as much as possible. So this is where traditionally CRM systems, especially ones with analytics packages now, which there's a bunch of, are built into it, where you can kind of analyze that data. You want to get it into that one place. I think there's a step further, which is that you want that data from a lot of different sources potentially in one place. This is where obviously tools like Power BI, Tableau have become really cool, where you can kind of aggregate centrally a lot of data from your CRM system and actually analyze it in a different place. So a lot of the bigger customers will use things like that in their journeys. So, you know, we've identified what we want to do. We've then identified what metrics we're going to measure that against. And now we've collected it in a place, in a central place. And you want to get it to one place. I know it's difficult, but you know, having data in 3 or 4 different products is really difficult. Like, that's why integrations are so big for us, because we try and push data into a central place. And that might get downstreamed again onto somewhere else. One thing then that I do, which often gets overlooked, is then segment that data as much as possible. So just because we've got conversions or we haven't got conversions, right? We want to start to look at where that conversion came from, right? What was the journey? You know, did they come from a website? Did we meet them at an event, right? Then how many touch points did we have that made that up, right? Because for conversions, we might be looking at, well, what is it that we do as a business that that is enabling us to win? So when we win, why do we win, right? Is it because we send them a specific type of content? Is it because a certain member of staff deals with them in a very different way, right? Gather all of that type of data around it together. I think that's the kind of key thing to do here. And then what you've got there is like a real good identification of the whole buyer journey. I then do that for any losses as well and find out why you might be losing. If you compare the two together, I think that'll be an interesting thing to look at. Then this is where you're going to interpret the data, right? Make sense of it, right? You can wrap your own story around why things are happening, right? You work in your own businesses, you've got a good idea of that. But this is where we're going to analyze and interpret the data that we have to say, this is telling us this. These are the campaigns that yield the higher results or the lower results, whatever that might be, generate the highest qualified leads, that type of stuff. So really, once you've kind of got all this stuff, that's when you're going to have time to look at it and go through it. So that's my framework. I've used this for years now, that type of framework. Clear objectives, identify your metrics, segment that data out, analyze it. That's kind of a tried and tested formula in the data science world, and I definitely say using that. I did just make a couple of notes as well, because this is recruitment and marketing efforts, and I just wanted to give some examples of where you could potentially go a step further on this. One is you should be using this data potentially, and I've spoke about this in a video on LinkedIn, to optimize job postings. Potentially, like the content that's in that job posting, I would definitely use your data to optimize those if you're a recruitment consultant. Specifically, or maybe mainly, I'd be using it. But if you're a marketer, work with your recruiters on that. Hey, did you know that when you write this type of stuff, or when there's this maybe keyword density, or this type of tone or language, or it's a neutral kind of tone, that type of stuff. Maybe you can use it to improve the candidate experience. So take website data to see where people didn't convert and then change conversion paths. It's a really good use of data. And then also, I've talked about this in an AI event that I did, talking about predictive analytics. Use this type of stuff to predict what other things in the future people might want, maybe content that they might want to see, or the type of jobs, or the type of flows and funnels on websites, that type of stuff. So I'd use it for that type of thing. In the marketing space, targeting campaigns. So segmentation in particular, to use really hyper personalized and targeted campaigns. It's a bit of a no-brainer these days. There's a lot of tools that help you do that. Optimize the content. So which content on our website is performing better? Look at the data around that, which converts, which has the highest time on site, which is improving the overall user experience on our website. And then obviously the main one is ROI measurements, right? As a marketer, using the data to track which of these sites is performing higher and where you're kind of getting the highest level of results from. So hopefully that answers and a bit more some of that question for everybody there. Okay, yeah, we've noticed that conversions on our website, I've heard this a few times, conversions on our website have been dropping in the last 6 months. Why would this be happening and what can we do about it? Okay, so it's a couple of different areas here. Stand by, child at the door, 1 second. I was about to get BBC'd by a 3-year-old. So this question gets asked a lot, and obviously we build websites and we see a lot of website owners who are moving vendors, or our own customers have seen this actually, and we've kind of had to work with them and speak with them and train them in what's going on in the world. But the first thing that you need to really get comfortable with is GA4, it's Google Analytics 4. And I know, RAP Analytics, Universal Analytics. But you've got to get comfortable with GA4. And I say this because if you're not comfortable, then you're not going to know why it's all happening and that it has happened in the day that your traffic starts to drop. You really need to get on top of that and become really, really comfortable with that source. So yeah, 100%, that is a key first step. If you're not comfortable with Google Analytics, get in touch with us. Maybe we could maybe help you and have a chat with you about it. But there are a lot of YouTube videos and there's a lot of content. Ben Digital did a really good webinar a while back about this as well. Shout out to the guys at Ben. Everyone's doing some really good content around it. And there really isn't an excuse to kind of not be upskilled on it at this stage. I know it's not as good. Personally, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Universal Analytics on the user experience side of things, but definitely as a substantial tool, it is there, and there's a lot of good queries you can do for it. So step one, I'd get up to speed on that. The report that you need to look at first, and I've done this for so long now, and there's usually one culprit for this, but the first report that you need to look at is your source medium tracking. So this is where people are coming through and what the method of that is. So website, and then it's referral traffic as an example of that. And the big one to look out for, if you've noticed a real drop off in conversions and potentially traffic, if you're just noticing this, have a look at your Indeed traffic and go back and periodically look at it. So find a period of time when you think it was working really well, maybe 12 months ago, 18 months ago. Take a period, take a month, compare it to now, because you can do a comparison in GA4. And that's going to show you how much traffic has been gained or lost on a comparison per source. In May this year, Indeed polled in the UK anyway. This happened in like 2018 in the US, 2018. But in the UK in May, Indeed stopped all that free organic traffic that they used to send to websites. And specifically, they sent the traffic to the job landing pages on your website, basically for people to go and continue an application. So if you've noticed applications have dropped, it's probably because of that. Like there's a really good chance it's because of that type of thing. And you know, there's two ways of looking at that. There's one way, which is, oh, damn, that's not great. Like that's definitely a good way of looking at it because we all liked it. It was good traffic. Oh, it was traffic. I'm not gonna say it was good traffic, but it was traffic. But secondly, it wasn't really ours anyway. And they were within their right to do it. And if you want it, you can go and pay them probably for it. It'll cost you a lot of money for the same type of traffic. They know that. So that's their business model. Like, hats off to them for that one. But I would really look at that straight away and then start to look at what else you can be doing to acquire back in and backfill that gap. You know, we've got clients who've had that issue where they've lost, 100%. It should be 100% of the traffic from Indeed, which was quite a lot. But actually, their SEO traffic is growing like significantly month on month, which is brilliant. And then they're doing social media marketing, which is then growing it month on month as well. And then they're doing some paid over here, which is growing it. And they're doing some direct brand and email marketing. You can't rely on one source specifically. I think that's a bad way to run any business, where you just rely, especially one that you don't have control and that you've not sought out. It's a really difficult one to do that. And a lot of business owners don't know that Indeed has done that. And a lot of business owners don't know the impact that Indeed are going to have on or have had on their business. But it's a real thing, right? And if you have noticed that drop or you feel it and you don't know why, Google Analytics, source medium reports, look at your referral traffic on a comparable period. I've also noticed that Indeed referral traffic has dropped for quite a lot of for LinkedIn referral traffic has dropped for quite a lot of people as well. So that's another one to have a look at and to kind of see why that's happened. Okay, next, and this is our final question, unless we get any in the chat. I think I've got people on my Slack who are going to send stuff over if we've got some of these questions. But question is, what are the most effective channels for acquiring new clients and candidates? We're looking to drive our acquisition, but don't really know where to expand. Okay, so this follows on from that last question, kind of seamless actually. And I saw a video last night, which immediately comes to mind. So I was watching like these best of TikTok kind of things. And there was a video, and this guy's filming the ocean, and there's like 50 fishermen in the ocean, like standing in a line. They're all casting. It's like quite a choppy day. They're all casting it. It's very funny. And then they, the guy's filming them turns around, and he just puts the camera behind him, and there's no one there. And there's this inlet, and it is full of fish. I mean, you could pick a fish up with your hands. You don't need a fisher rod. But all these guys are out fishing. All these people are fishing in the sea. I'm like, that's going to be a difficult fish. Like, that's going to be a tough one to find. But behind them, if you had a net, like a kid could have caught one of these fish. And the question is like, where are your fish swimming, right? Where are your customers or your candidates or your consultants? Where are they online or at events, or what books are they reading? Whatever it is, that's the first thing that we need to understand. And when we think we've got a good idea around that, crazy idea, you could speak to them and ask them, then you need to test and you need to probe that, and you need to understand that that demographic, not from your gut. I did like a little LinkedIn, like 1 minute on LinkedIn about this, not from your gut, but by using data. Use data to understand the demographics from each of these sources. Quite often, like say it was Reddit, for example, say you knew that 60% of your users went on Reddit, you could contact like the sales team at Reddit. They will have a team that does like ad spend and ad space on Reddit. You could speak to them and say, hey, looking to spend, like how many users actually are on that in this region? They'll be able to split that kind of data down for you. And then you can go and look at potentially running ads specifically in Reddit to target the people that you would normally target, right? Very different than SEO, that. Very, very different. But if that's where your users are and they're not using Google, then you can SEO as much as you want. It's not going to return as good as Reddit from that side of things. So I think that's the first thing. Social media is massive. And I would say that it's largely unused by recruiters in a paid way. I know a lot of recruiters are on social media. LinkedIn is social media, right? I see these TikTok videos where they're like, go left and go right. I don't totally understand that. I really don't understand that. But maybe it's not meant for me. So that's fine. But posting terrible TikToks isn't going to give you the retirement fund that you're looking for. It really isn't. Or maybe it will. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that one. But what I do think is that paid media through TikTok or through Reddit or through Google Ads, that could actually return for you. I think in the recruitment space, like an undervalued pay-per-click budget is probably on best recruitment agency in Manchester, that longer term type of stuff, or finance recruitment agencies in Manchester. I think it's probably quite cheap, that media still, if you want to go and spend some money on that as an idea. Job boards. If job boards work for you, then that is great. I'm not one of these people that sits there and says, hey, you shouldn't use job boards anymore. I'm not that guy, right? If it's working for you and you're converting from it, amazing. But when we say work, understand what work means. Applications don't mean anything if they never convert, right? And there will be people say, oh, we might get some intel out of them. Okay, fine. I disagree with that. Applications from job boards work when we go and place people and we make some money and we find them a job, right? That's when applications from job boards work, not when we get 50 and only one of them is suitable for the job. And I'll also extend that and say, and we place them in a period of time, right? We might get candidates that it takes us 2-3 months and they get placed for a different job. I take that on board. But when we look at it, we need to look at the, like, how many people did we actually place versus how many actually came through these different job boards, right? Then look at our spend with all that kind of stuff. So, that can be effective for you, but you really need to understand the data of that to see if it's effective. Referral programs, this is a cool way to work. One thing that I don't think probably gets asked enough just generally, and there's just one quick win. When you place a candidate in a job, or if you place with your client and they're happy, just ask them this. It's been brilliant to work with you on this role. Thanks so much for giving it to us. Do you know any other companies that might need a service like ours or might benefit from a service like ours? That's a question you can ask, cost nothing. Or to a candidate, you can say, I'm so happy that you've got this job. I'm absolutely delighted for you. You've worked really hard through this process and thank you for using us. Before, we kind of leave you to the onboarding side of things now, do you know any other people that might be looking for work right now that we might be able to help also? That referral might open up 2 unhappy workers in the business that's sitting right next to this person because they all have lunch together and they all hate their lives working for that company because it's terrible. And they've got a boss that wants to go to the what was that word the other day? That war mentality or war life balance. They might turn around and say, "Hey, I've got this great recruit that I'm working with. I've worked in tech companies, and I know for a fact that happens quite consistently." They'll talk about the recruiters they use. Good idea. So my advice on this one, like a final party and Jerry Springer thoughts on this one is, if you're starting up in particular, and I'd say this to B2B SaaS companies as well, software companies. I say probably to any company online anyway. If you're just starting out, find one source for you that starts to work and deliver gold, and then work the life out of that. And that could be referrals, it could be social media, it could be TikTok videos, I'm not sure. But I would work the life out of that at least for a year and drive so much because it's overwhelming worrying about every single source that comes through. So when we talk about effective channels, there might be lots of effective channels, but you need to find the effective channel has the best return based on time and revenue for you at this given moment in time. And not knowing where to expand is probably the overwhelming part of this question. Is like, where do we even go? A year down the line, then jump back and start to look at, okay, can we expand this to a second channel? Is there a third channel that we might be able to work? Should we bring somebody in to manage where we are? And if you're a bigger business watching this, and I know we've got some bigger companies that watch this, I don't think it's too dissimilar from that. Still work your golden channels. Find that there's 1 or 2 channels that work really well for you, and then just exploit that as much as possible. Then start to worry about all of the other different social media channels and paid media channels and all those kind of things, and online, offline, wherever it might be. I think you still need to work your highest performing channels and kind of drive that through. And if you've got a channel actually that is high performing but doesn't get a lot of traffic right now, that might be the one that you promote to the highest performer and you put all your time and effort into that. So if job boards are working for you right now, but you want your website to be that, there's nothing wrong with them promoting that website and starting to shift all of your budget and attention to that, and vice versa on that side of things. So hopefully this is help with answering some of these questions that have come through. I don't think we've got any other questions that have come through. We get these sent over. It's been amazing. I've been lucky enough that I put 4 in today. That we've got more than this that have come through. So if you've got questions or there's anything that you want to know about, it's completely anonymous. I don't bring people's names up unless you want me to. Brings people's names up on these, but it's been a lot of fun answering these. I'm loving doing this series, and we put all the videos, all the content is on YouTube, so you can like and subscribe to that YouTube channel or connect with me, follow me on LinkedIn, send me your questions, and every week I'm more than happy to answer those for you. So have a great rest of your week. Smash it. Hope some of this has been useful, and until next time, I'll see you soon, LinkedIn.